So welcome everyone. This is going to be challenge lab number 2, creating a dynamic website for the cafe. And this scenario is after the cafe launched the first version of its website, customer told the cafe staff how nice the website looks, and however, in addition to the providing praise, customers often asked whether they could place online orders. Sophia, Nikhil, Frank, Martha discussed the situation and agreed that their business strategy and decision should focus on delighting their customers and providing them with the best possible cafe experience. So, lab overview and objectives. In this lab, you deploy an application on Amazon EC2 instance. The application gives the cafe the ability to accept online orders. After testing the application work as intended, the first AWS region, which is the development region environment, you then create AMI from the EC2 instance. You also deploy a second instance on the same application as the production environment in another AWS region. So after completing the lab, you should be able to do the following: connect to the AWS Cloud 9 integrated development environment on an existing EC2 instances. Analyze the EC2 instance environment and confirm web server accessibility. Install a web application on EC2 instance that also use AWS Secret Manager. Test the web application, create an AMI, deploy a second copy of web application to another AWS region. So when you start the lab, some resources are already created for you. It look like this. We have two regions, US East 1, US West 2, two VPCs, two subnet, and in region 1 we have EC2 instance and Cloud 9. We also have IAM role. By the end of this lab, the architect will look like this. We have AMI, we have AWS Secret Manager connected to EC2 instance running the cafe application, and then we have EC2 instance in region 2 as well, which is also connected to AWS Secret Manager. So let's proceed with the lab. And a business request for the cafe, preparing an EC2 instance to host a website. So the cafe wants to introduce online ordering for customer and give cafe staff the ability to view the submitted orders. Their current website architecture, whether the website is hosted on Amazon S3, does not support the new business requirements. In the first part of this lab, you take on the role of Sophia. You configure an EC2 instance so that it is ready to host a website for the cafe. So task 1 is analyzing the existing EC2 instance. In this task, you note detail about the existing EC2 instance that has been created for you. So we will go to EC2 instance in AWS console, which I already have open here. Let's go to EC2. Go to instances, AWS Cloud 9 Cafe Web Server EC2 instance. And next is about answering question. So we have to answer first 4 questions. So is the instance in a public subnet? we do have a public IP address related to this instance, and then we are connected to a public subnet. So I would answer yes. And does the EC2 instance have a IPv4 public address assigned to it? As we can see, yes. What inbound TCP port number are open for this instance? So let's go to networking. Security. In inbound rules, port number 22 is open. Only port 22 is open. Next is, does the EC2 instance have an IAM role associated with it? Let us go to IAM. I would answer no for this because I couldn't locate any IAM role connected to the EC2 instance. Let's submit all these answers and proceed with next task 2, connecting to the IDE on the EC2 instance. AWS Cloud 9 is a service that can run on an EC2 instance. It provides an IDE that includes features such as code editor, debugger, and terminal. By using the AWS Cloud 9 IDE, you don't need to download a key pair, connect to EC2 instance by using PuTTY or the similar secure shell software. By using AWS Cloud 9, you don't need to use command line text editing tools to edit files. So go to AWS and then copy Cloud9 URL. Paste and go. Yes. You are now connected to the AWS Cloud9 IDE that is running on EC2 instance. that you observed earlier. Okay, the IDE include the following: a bash terminal in the bottom right, and a file browser in the left panel that shows the file this, and a file editor in the upper right panel. If you select a file in the file browser, for example this, it will show in this editor. Next, task 3 is analyzing the LAMP stack environment and confirming that the web server is accessible. So recall, the objective of this challenge lab is to configure an EC2 instance to host the new dynamic website for the cafe. In this task, you analyze what is already installed. So to observe the operating system of the version, in the AWS Cloud9 bash, run the following command: cat proc version. And Linux version 6.1.97104.177. Notice how the output indicate that it is an Amazon Linux instance. And roughly analogous to Red Hat 7. So next is to observe the web server PHP detail and the server state. Run the following command. Just copy paste it here and run it. So the PHP server version is Apache, Amazon Linux, and server built July 5th. So to start the web server, install the database and set them to start automatically after any future EC2 instance restart. So we are going to start the web server, install the database, and set them to start automatically after future EC2 instance restarts. We will copy paste this command. After running this command, if the terminal doesn't show a prompt, press Q. No, it shows. So to configure EC2 instance so that you can use AWS Cloud9 editor to edit web server files, run the following command. Notice that the AWS Cloud9 file browser currently does not display the Apache web server default web directory. The first command creates a symlink from the default AWS Cloud9 editor workspace to var www directory that contains your web server file. The second command changes the ownership of the HTML subdirectory so that EC2 user which you are logged in as can edit, create new files in it. Next, you create a test web page. In the file browser, expand the cafe web server www directory, choose the HTML and choose file, new file, and in the text editor copy paste this, choose file, save, and name file as index.html. Save. Make the website accessible from the internet. In this step, you need to verify that update the configuration that make the web pages which are hosted on the web server. So in Amazon EC2 console, locate the public IP address of the EC2 instance. In a new browser, enter HTTP public IP and replace with the public IPv4 address, and open the page. Does the message that you entered load the browser? Okay. So let's go to EC2. Go to instances, select the instance, copy public IP, go to new tab, select HTTP, paste the IP, it does not allow. So it says to allow inbound traffic on TCP port 80 from anywhere. Update the source in security group of the EC2 instance. So let's go to security group. And this is the security group with link to the EC2 instance. It says update the source. Let's edit this. Update the source. Let me do anywhere and anywhere. Let me save this row. I cannot. Modifying. There was an error modifying your security group inbound row. So let me go back, cancel this. Outbound rule is configured as type all traffic protocol all port range all, but we need to update the source in the security group of EC2 instance. So let's try to add a new rule if possible. Let's add a custom all TCP or maybe all traffic. And then anywhere, or maybe select custom TCP and port 80. Yes, so now we have successfully added another rule to the security group, and I think we added this rule, right, and its type is HTTP. And save rule. But still, why we can't access this? Let's go to EC2 instances, copy this address or open this address directly, Still can't access it. Okay, we will figure it out or not. I don't know exactly, but we will proceed with the next task, which is new business requirement installing a dynamic website application on EC2 instance. So in the previous challenge, you configured the EC2 instance. Now know that the PHP is installed and the application environment has a running relational database. Also, the environment has a running web server that can be accessed from the internet. You now have the basic setup for hosting a dynamic website for cafe. I'm looking for the public IP address if I can find. No, nothing is accessible, so let's proceed. So in the second part of this lab, you take on role of Sophie and install cafe application in EC2 instance. To download and extract, in task 4 we are installing the cafe application, and it says to download and extract the web server application file. Run the following command. Notice how the file browser shows the .zip file. Yes, that you downloaded. You also extract these archive which created cafe db and set up directory in your work environment. Next, you observe how the application is designed to work. Next is open the www.html cafe psr index.php. Notice that this file has HTML code in it, but it also contains sections that are enclosed in elements. These element makes calls to other system and resource. For example, on line 18, you see that the PHP code reference file named getAppParameter. Open the getAppParameter.php. Notice in line 3, of this file that the AWS SDK is invoked. In the subsequent section, the web application creates a client that connects to Secret Manager. The application then retrieves 7 parameters from Secret Manager. Those parameters have not been created in the Secret Manager yet, but you do that next. To configure the application parameter in the bash terminal, run the following commands. So on AWS Management Console, in the search box, go to Secret Manager. Secret Manager. From the panel on the left, choose Secret, and there are now 7 parameters stored as secret. Yes. Choose cafe db password. Choose retrieve secret value. Copy this value to your clipboard. To configure MySQL database to support the Cafe application in the AWS Cloud9 Bash terminal, run the following command. So database script completed. To connect to terminal based MySQL client to database, run the following command. Password is net123 hash. It says cannot connect to local MySQL server. So we will skip this step, and next is to observe the content of the database. The table that support Cafe web application. Run the following command. Next is to update the time zone configuration in PHP. Run this command, but as we are not connected